right, here's a sampling of the headlines, okay, over the past month, just from Politico. Okay? Let the Democratic freakout begin. Dems start to face the hard questions. Does the White House owe Larry Summers an apology? The other big intra-Democratic fight. No biff bump for Biden. White House braces for a bad CBO score. Biden dithers. Biden tries to calm nerves about 2024. The case for why Biden is screwed. That's just a sampling of what is leading the headline writers in their, and it's this false equivalency, right, between the two political parties. I mean, this is why you get people saying both parties are just as bad. No, both parties are not just as bad. You have a president passed who literally did a Muslim ban, who literally put children in cages and bragged about it, who literally, said that, you should throw tomatoes at people, or you should punch them in the face, or carry them out on a stretcher, or go home to mommy for, you know what I mean? You have a president who literally said the election would be rigged if he lost. And then when he lost, told everybody to go fight like hell or you won't have a country anymore. You have a president who got on the telephone in a recorded conversation to a Secretary of State in a southern state and said, just find me 11,890 votes. I just need one more than Biden got, recorded on tape. And nothing's happened to him. And instead of the media writing headlines saying, why hasn't anything happened to him? He obviously was involved in a conspiracy to overthrow the legitimate election. He was obviously in a conspiracy that included violence at the Capitol. He was obviously involved in a conspiracy because the lawyer, John Eastman, wrote a coup memo. He was obviously involved in a conspiracy because Mike Pence was asked not to certify the electoral votes when all else failed. He was obviously involved in a conspiracy because he went to 60 different courts and lost 60 times and still tells the big lie to, conspire against the free and fair democratic process known as elections in this country. And nobody writes these crazy, headlines about him. Nobody dares say, this man needs to die in prison, except for me. Nobody ever says, when are we going to lock him up? Nobody ever writes, a pithy little, headline about, is Trump guilty of RICO violations? Is Trump, involved in a conspiracy? No. Biden is presiding over one of the best economies we've seen in a really long time, and this despite a pandemic, okay? Jobless claims dropped to the lowest level in 52 years. But when they write it in the press, it's like, but, don't expect the numbers to immediately change Americans' negative, opinion of Joe Biden. So what happened here was this is so creepy. This is just so crazy. I should show you this video that I've been holding on to for like 3-4 days now, more than that. It's just creepy. It's a real video of what's really going on in China with regard to surveillance, state surveillance. And I don't know, do you watch Black Mirror, Dark Mirror? What is that called? Black Mirror?
Black Mirror is great.
Okay, so I've only seen a few episodes of it because the first one I saw was White Bear, and it freaked me out so hard. I don't like being scared. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling. I don't like horror. I'm like the odd man out when it comes to my whole freaking family. My mother, you know what my mother is doing? My mother's in the hospital. You know what my mother is doing? She's watching Chucky movies. Yeah, she says, I just got so into Chucky. They love to be scared. Jessica, the scarier the better. Heredity, she said, is the scariest movie she has. So she loves it. She could watch it on an endless loop, okay?
That is a great movie.
She loves it.
But also by the director of another film called Midsummer. Those two movies are unbelievable. That director, I'll get the name. He's really, his career is about to take off. He's awesome.
She loves that movie because it scares the bejesus out of her. Okay, so I watched Dark Mirror, Black Mirror, whatever it was, and the first one I saw was called White Bear, and it was about, it starts with a murder. I won't tell you the end, but it's really horrific. I mean, because it's so close to what reality could be that it horrified me. It's more shocking. It's more like a Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, which was deeper. The Outer Limits was, more socially oriented in its horror. But anyway, I only watched one other one, and it's the one about the social media girl. You ever see that, where you have to have a certain social score in order to get a job, in order to get the decent apartment, in order to have a boyfriend, in order to be accepted, for an interview, whatever. Well, that's really happening in China. I'll show it to you. I have to pull it because it's not in my folder today, but I've had it for a few days. Anyway, check this out. Artificial intelligence, that's why I bring it up, can now measure the negativity of people who are viewing something with precision. A data analytics unit of an information company called Fiscal Note. Okay, it's a real thing. They used artificial intelligence to comb through more than 200,000 articles, tens of millions of words from 65 news websites. And we're talking about all kinds of sites. We're talking about newspapers, network news sites, cable news sites, political publications, news wires, blogs, you name it, right? And they did a sentiment analysis report. This is so creepy to me. They used algorithms that give weight to certain adjectives based on their placement in a story, so that they could rate the coverage that Biden received in his first 11 months of 2021, and then the same period of time for Trump in the first 11 months of his presidency. Well, actually, it was in the first 11 months of 2020. It didn't have the ability to do it for the first year of the Trump presidency. But anyway, they filed their report, and Fiscal Note says, the president of Fiscal Note is a guy named Bill Frischling. He said, my colleagues in the media are serving as accessories to the murder of democracy because of the false equivalence that they are giving to somebody who is illiberal and anti-democratic, who literally sought to overturn the democracy and still seeks to do that, versus a calm and measured president who may not be, the most thrilling entertainer, but gets things done. Remember, Trump presided over the worst in the world pandemic response. This was pre-vaccine, and it caused hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths. He was diagnosed with COVID, lied to the American people about that diagnosis, and instead went and visited with Gold Star families, who are the families of fallen soldiers. Knowing he had COVID, he hosted a super spreader event for Amy COVID Barrett, hence her name, lied to the American people about being positive for COVID when real leadership would have made him step up to the plate and say, okay, I learned this the hard way. I wanted to believe COVID was a hoax. I wanted to believe COVID was Now we're finding out his oxygenation, his blood oxygen level was 84. Okay, that's like near dead. Anything under 94, you are oxygen dependent, right? I know this because my mom is oxygen dependent. But Trump was down to 84 and lied to the American people about having COVID. He also waged a racist campaign against Black Lives Matter demonstrators. He also attempted to discredit mail-in voting, put a hack into the Postal Service to slow it all down, said he didn't want more testing, which would have helped us to do contact tracing and end the pandemic before the vaccine, right? And then, said that our elections were not free and fair, still says our elections weren't free and fair, said it the other day. He was on Newsmax, I guess it was, right? And said, look what's going on. They stole the election.
In the book, there's a picture of you with Vice President Pence, and you talk about the caption that you wrote, and I understand you wrote all the captions on these photos, says that you got along great except on one issue. Vice President Pence on Thursday said that he did the right thing on January 6th. In your mind, did he do the right thing, and is that obviously the one thing that you didn't agree with him on?
Totally, and he didn't do the right thing, and he's a person who's a good person. He didn't do whatever it is that you might say he should have done, because, and I think you agree with me, and a lot of people agree with me, if you see that the election was fraudulent, if you see that there are more votes than there are voters, if you see many of the things that went along, and they're coming out on a weekly basis, more and more and more, and you'll be seeing more come out. It's not me. It's states now. Look at what's going on in Pennsylvania.
Nothing's going on in Pennsylvania.
Sending subpoenas to many people. And now
Many
the federal
people.
government will try and stop that because they don't want that to happen. They got away with something that is, in my opinion, the crime of the century. And instead of going after Antifa and BLM and all these people that killed a lot of people and burned down our cities, and what they did, the destruction, they're going after people that were protesting the election. The election was the insurrection. The November 3rd date was the insurrection.
And Biden is getting worse coverage than he got.